Hello and welcome to DJ Exodus. I'm David and this is Arabella, and today we're talking about the 5 most unknown regular maintenance things that you should be doing for your reptile. Now these are things that you might not have been told during your initial purchase of your reptile, whether it's a leopard gecko or corn snake or any other species, and things which really you will learn with more advanced keeping. Now before we get started, 2 bits of housekeeping. Number 1, we are animal led, so if our bird skink Arabella here decides that she wants to go back, we will be putting her back. And secondly, please remember to like, share, comment on the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. Let's get started. So what are we talking about when we're talking about the 5 things that you need to do which you might not have been told of? These are kind of improvement that help improve the engagement with your reptile, but also their health, and help you to ensure that they have a life which they're going to really enjoy. Now Arabella here is a Schneider skink or a Berber skink, and they are an absolute fantastic species, and they're a perfect one for this video because there's some of the activities which we do with her which are absolutely across the board but are more tellable with her. There are some things that I wouldn't do with a leopard gecko that I would do with her. So the first thing we're going to talk about is clipping their nails. Now this is something that we have to do with Arabella because their nails grow quite long, so long that they start curving and she would find it hard to walk if she didn't have her nails cut. Also, her toes can get caught across each other, and that can be particularly painful to walk on. So the first thing that I would really recommend is making sure that you have a species, right? When we're talking about, it's not just skinks, it is also things like bearded dragons and larger lizards, not so much leopard geckos. And you can do this with simple toe nail clippers that you can get in any healthcare store. It's just very gentle, very precise work and a steady hand, but it's fairly easy to do. The next on the list is actually giving them a bath. Now what we do for this is that we get a small little box that we fill it up with warmish water to about 30 degrees, somewhere between 25 and 30 degrees, and you put your reptile in there. Now a bath helps them keep their scales nice and clean, it hydrates them, and it's one of the activities that should be done. There's a lot of animals that has to be done regularly, such as a bearded dragon. Leopard geckos don't need it as much and they don't like it, but it can be quite good if they're going into shed in order to help them shed properly. The other thing that you can do is do that with snakes during a shed period, or if they've got stuck shed, it's a really simple way for them to help remove any excess shed or to just get ready for shedding. Species that really do enjoy this quite often boas do, pythons can do, but there are going to be some individuals like Geraldina, our large boa, hates water and hates going in water, so we've had to find ways in which we can incorporate more humidity into her enclosure to help her shed. Traditionally, her species would actually go probably sit in a lake or a river and soak up before shed because she's quite large. The next on the list is temperature checks. Now this should be done on a regular basis, but many people don't do that. Now a simple way of doing that is using a heat gun. Now we did mention this in some of the objects which you might need as a leopard gecko keeper but not realise, and that's in our video up here. Now this is important because a lot of equipment can actually break and you don't realise it. Heat mats and even the ceramic bulbs, which we recommend, they can go off and not emit any heat. They can also degrade over time and you might need to replace them. It's also a good thing to check because sometimes the thermostats do not work, and that's important. So checking those on a regular basis, perhaps once every week or once every month, is really, really important, and we have mentioned that in our care routine for leopard geckos, which again you can watch in the corner. The next activity that you should be doing on a regular basis, but probably do not realise, is actually changing out the enclosure of your reptile. Now this is done for a lot of species, but one of the species I would not recommend it for is the bearded dragon, because they can get quite defensive if anything changes. They are very OCD in their ways, that they don't even like it if you move your coat across the room. But changing the decorations, like changing the plants over, changing the layout of the enclosure and things like that, can actually benefit the reptile because it gives them mental stimulation, and that can be very good for their mental health, allows them to live a longer life and gives them something to do in their enclosure while you're not with them. And the final thing that you should be doing, which you might not think to, is doing a general health check. Now a lot of people just look at their leopard gecko and think, okay, It looks fine, it's eating, it's drinking, or they do that with the snake, things like that, but they don't give their animal a really good health check. When we talk about a health check, what we're looking for is the weight. So you weigh your leopard gecko, you weigh your corn snake, check that it's not losing weight. Weight loss of about 10% is something that should be a concern, taking them to the vet if you get that. But also sudden weight gain, so if they gain 10% very quickly, and that's not if they're growing up. If you've still got a young snake or leopard gecko, then and you've not weighed it for a month, then 10% is actually probably about right for a leopard gecko. They put on about 2 grams per week, and if you haven't done it for 4 weeks and they've had a growth spurt, then yeah, that will happen. 10 grams could be quite easily done. But if you've got an adult and you haven't weighed it for a month and it's only put on 10 grams, then maybe it needs to have a little bit less food. If you've got a big snake and it's only put on 10 grams, you might want to have a look at it. But you also want to have a look around the eyes, the feet, the tail, all sorts of things like that. Make sure there's no stuck shed, make sure there's no kind of cuts or grazes. Now that can happen, especially if you've got a very naturalistic environment for your reptile. So if you use a lot of stones and bark and things like that, then the negative effect of that is that they can get rough scales, or they can graze themselves against those rough edges. And that isn't always something to be too worried about, but it is something to notice, because what you want to check is that it's not going to cause any ill health later on. But it's a bit of like they would have in the wild. A little bit of scratches are common if you've got a very naturalistic setup. And that's something which zoos come across. You look at Snake Discovery and they talked about it in one of their videos about 3-4 months back. That's not so much of a concern, but if you then start noticing little nodules or lumps on your gecko, then you should be able to go and check it. The other thing is also to keep a log. This is part of the health check, so keep a log of how much it's eaten, how much it's drunk, if you've noticed anything, any strange activity, because all of this information can be very important to a vet or an animal behaviourist if you ask them about the health of your gecko, or any snake, or any other reptile. Apart from that, those are the 5 things which you should be doing, which you might not be doing, that will help enhance the life of your reptile. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've got any suggestions yourself, please put them down in the comments. Apart from that, please like and share the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.